Welcome to the Japan Archives bonus episode number 4. So, we are so sorry that we could not record an episode last week, but we wanted to give you guys a little bit of life update, and we're going to have a little bit of Japanese history as well. So, as you don't know because you can't see me, I am currently in my hospital room. I'm still in the hospital, or as Thomas would say, in hospital. And I've been here for about a week and a half now. I'm doing good. I'm healthy. I even got to go outside on a short excursion yesterday for a couple hours. I was given permission to go out into the real world and just do some shopping and just kind of getting back to like normal life. So I'm going to start out the bonus episode today before I turn over to Thomas and tell you guys a little bit about my experience so far in a Japanese hospital. It's my first time in a hospital. I wasn't hospitalized in America. So this is my first time in staying in any hospital. I've stayed with family members, but this is the first time I've been a patient. But I have been in American hospitals with family members, so just a few little differences that I've noticed. I'm in a specific type of hospital, so first, I'm not around coronavirus patients or potential coronavirus patients, even though in my area so far there is no positive coronavirus. So just letting you guys know. So I'm not in a hospital where there's a lot of like really sick people. So, that's a good thing. I'm actually pretty well. The danger of catching a virus of any type is pretty low. So on that instance, I'm glad I am where I am. The first thing I noticed was there is visiting hours, and so in the hospitals I've been to in America when I was a child, there was visiting hours, but those have since generally kind of gone away. Like for example, I could stay overnight with a family member in the hospital, sleep overnight, no problem. But here, there are visiting hours from like 12:30 ish to like 7:30 or so. So my husband can't stay with me. He has to come and go during those visiting hours. The first day I was here, he was given special permission to stay later, but he had to get special permission to stay. The other thing is, there is a curfew. I have to have my lights and TV out about 10 o'clock, and I can't turn them on until 7 a.m. So I can't even turn my TV on. I am in a shared room, but I'm lucky that I am the only person. There's two other beds besides mine, but I am the only person in the room. So I've been lucky. So I can turn my TV on loud because each bed has its own personal TV, but you're supposed to use headphones. But since I'm by myself, I don't have to. And also, I tried to watch one show after 10 o'clock, and the nurse came in and said, "Oh, Heza-san, oyasumi." So somehow they knew I was watching TV. So I haven't tried that again. Another thing is, I don't have to stay in my bed. I can walk around the hospital. I don't have dietary restrictions, so I can drink my coffee. So I can go down, I can drink anything, I can eat anything with the exception of alcohol, which is fine. At this point, I can wait. And let's see what else. I have to bring my own towels. So there's communal showers. So it's kind of like being in a dormitory. I have to bring my own towel. They do provide the bedding, but I don't have the towels. I have to bring my own pajamas as well, which is great because I don't have the terrible hospital gowns. Like Thomas, do the gowns in the UK button up, like tie up the back? Because in America, we have those awful gowns that tie or snap, and you basically moon everyone when you walk down the hall. Is it the same in the UK?
It might be for adults, but like the very few times I've been in hospitals in England was when I was quite little. And I do remember wearing a gown once, but it was like a one piece. So there was no tying at the back to show off everything to people. But maybe that's just because it
Oh,
was children, so there's different rules. So honestly, I'm not quite sure.
hmm.
The first question you asked me, I can't answer today. I'm so sorry to you and the listeners. And also, I want to quickly say I'm sorry if the sound quality is a little different on my side today. Obviously, Heather is in the hospital, and I am also currently stuck at school. All the students have been sent home for coronavirus fears, but the teachers are still here. So I'm currently sat in a very echoey and empty classroom today. So, yeah, apologies for the sound qualities.
The hospital gown's like a yukata. It's kind of like you go to well, it's got ties, so like inner ties and outer ties. So it really feels and it's like a nice waffle weave, I think is what it's called. But it's kind of pinkish pink. It's a unusual color, but it was really comfortable, although I can wear my own pajamas, so I'm totally great. And the food's amazing. The food is so good. Like I look forward to meal times. Like lunch is about 55 minutes away, and you notice I am at the minute mark because I'm like, oh, what's gonna be today? Although I can see the menu outside, but still, that's like one of the highlights of my day is see what menu items they have. And yeah, Thomas, is there anything else I'm missing? I think I got the basic basic things I was thinking of.
I think the only other thing you mentioned to me prior to us hitting the record button was just something about jewelry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember in American hospitals or not, but they don't let me wear my ring. Like my wedding ring, you could probably see me, Thomas, from the video camera, but I'm even touching my ring finger because I'm so used to having it. And I forget, oh yeah, that's right. It's in my personal belongings, but they won't let me wear it just in case like might have to go into surgery immediately and then we don't want to cut it off you because that I've heard of that happening too, like having to cut off like rings like in surgery because like sometimes fingers can like I won't even go into detail, but yeah, I've heard that like people have to cut off rings so they don't even want to have that risk, even though I'm not in, as far as I know, I am not in any danger of having to go into immediate surgery, so it's just everyone here does it. I think my experience, it might be someone else who's been in a hospital, their experience might be different. I think like each hospital might have their own specific rules. To be honest, I don't know. This is the first time I've been stayed in any hospital, let alone in Japan. And if someone had asked me like, "Oh, what about a Japanese hospital?" I wouldn't have. It would have been hard to think of a question like, I assume it's just like a hospital, but there's just a little differences that like when you get in there, you're like, oh. And the thing is, I've learned things as I've been here, the longer I've been here. Oh yeah, like I can go get my food tray. Like I can literally go out into the hall and get my tray. Like I know in America, if I tried to do that, if I left my bed and tried to get my tray, the catering people would be like, "Nope, get in bed, get in bed." But here, I can go get my tray.
So there's a bit more freedom in a Japanese
At,
hospital.
at least in mine, yeah. I would be really curious to hear anyone else's experience if it's similar to mine. I really want to know. So if anyone has been in a Japanese hospital, first of all, I'm so sorry, and I hope you're doing better. What experiences were yours similar to mine, or were they different? Like, I would love to know more because I don't want to go into another hospital, but in case I have to, it'd be nice to know what might go on. So Thomas, I've talked about my
Yes.
experience, but what's going on in the real world? I'm in a little bubble here, little hospital bubble, but what's going on in your neck of the woods? You said you were in you're in school right now, but there's a bunch of stuff going on, so update me.
So with this bonus thing being more about healthcare, I guess, the main thing affecting Chiba and Tokyo as well, because it's affecting Chiba because we're so close to Tokyo, is again the current coronavirus fears and things. Abe suggested that schools finish 2 weeks early, so the spring break, just so like there's less people out and about to potentially not spread the virus as much. So our school ended 2 weeks early. So we've had no final exams. I didn't have to write any tests, which was a godsend for me. But basically, yeah. So we're still here. All the teachers are still here. Prep for next year and stuff like that. For Tokyo, like a lot of companies now, they're telling people to work from home. Like that's become a very big thing as well. A lot of like meetings are being cancelled. I've read on Twitter like some companies are saying you can't have groups of like more than 5 or 6 people in one place anymore for fears of things spreading.
Oh wow.
So it's a bit crazy right now. There are a few schools in our area that still haven't closed because Abe when he said it, it was like a strong suggestion. It wasn't something that had to be officially done. Yeah, it wasn't something he was like enforcing on people. It was more of a strong suggestion. So a few schools are still in session for these last 2 weeks. But apart from that, oh, the only difference is like I was explaining to you, and maybe the listeners at home don't know, but like Japan in times of crisis, like in England, if there's a crisis, people will rush to the supermarkets and stock up on bread and milk. It's like the British thing. But in Japan, it looks like they rush to the supermarkets and buy all the toilet roll for some strange reason. But I think you were telling me why that is, Heather, so please enlighten us all.
Okay, so I think there's actually two reasons. So, reason one, like the professor was telling me that, yeah, like usually in times of crisis. So, in North Carolina, if there's like snow, bread and milk, that's gone. You can't get bread milk. If there's a mention of snow, it's gone. But yeah, here it's toilet paper. But also, I've heard from other friends, like Japanese and non Japanese people living in Japan, so different, several different people have told me that there was a news report apparently recently that said that the manufacturing from China was going to stop, so imports were going to stop, and apparently that included toilet paper. However, toilet paper is manufactured in Japan, so there was going to be no stopping of importing because it's made here. So I think there's two stories going on: the traditional stockpile toilet paper, and then also a news report that said you're not going to be able to get toilet paper. So I think two things going to happen to make it like the perfect storm of like even more toilet paper panic than might normally go on.
Actually, I've just remembered something
Ooh,
while you were talking. I think Alfredo also mentioned something to me as well about the toilet roll.
oh really?
And that was a while back when they had their really bad earthquake.
Ah.
And there was a lot of power outages in Japan. Obviously, now in Japan, a lot of the bathrooms, the toilets themselves are electrical, so they can wash you instead of you having to use so much toilet paper. And because when the
Ah.
earthquake happened, there was a lot of power outages, people couldn't use the bathrooms to wash themselves, meaning they panicked, thinking they would have to buy a lot more toilet roll because now instead of having it done for them, they were having to do it for themselves, kind of thing.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I would be
That would definitely
concerned.
do it.
Yeah, I would be concerned. And I think like, you sent me a picture of the shopping mall, and the aisle was clear. And then also, and excuse me, it says a more personal topic. Previous apologies. Close your ears for 5 seconds if you don't want to hear this. Ladies' personal items like sanitary products. There was also a worry about that being the supplies diminishing. So there was a little bit of a run to get sanitary products, I think in diapers too. So when I got to go out on my brief excursion, I took a look at that aisle, and yeah, it was down. It was like about half of what it normally would be. Not just, I think, like a lot of paper products. I don't know if paper towels were affected or not. I haven't heard about paper towels, but
So yeah, there is a quick update from the cheaper end of things, and it's nice that you wanted to record this, even though you're in hospital for people. Tell them a bit about the hospitals in general. But like you said, the bonus episode, we did find some history that we can relate to this episode for people, so they get a little bit. Now, I quickly did some research last night for this episode for us. Obviously, Heather's stuck in the hospital; she doesn't have much access to things, and obviously with curfews and stuff and visiting hours, like a lot of your time is kind of lost. So I had a look and I wanted to quickly tell you some medical history facts for Japan.
yay. Yes, I am so excited.
So I only found a few, like it would have been an exhaustive list. So I just put a few bonus episodes short kind of thing. So
Hmm.
the first thing I found that if we start back in between the 6th and 7th centuries, in Japan at the time they were using something known as Kampo medicine.
Mm.
And basically, this was the study of Chinese medicine, which was brought to Japan, and that was what they used during that time period. I found out that between the 1200s and 1603, most of the physicians in Japan were actually Buddhist monks.
Oh.
So you would go to the temples for your treatment and surgeries potentially. It actually wasn't until like 1603 to like the 1800s, so into the Edo period, that Japanese medicine actually began to change from the traditional Chinese, and they brought in basically a new form of treatment called the rangaku, which we can translate to meaning something like Dutch learning. And
Mm.
obviously, at this time, Japan was a closed country, and the only people that could get access to Japan were the Dutch traders. So they brought with them their medical textbooks. And during this time, Japan started to, it wasn't a rapid change, it was a slow change
Mm.
because not only were they being introduced to new forms of medical techniques and practices, but it also caused them to have a lot of debate and anguish between more modern traditional Western medicine and the Chinese medicine. So there was a kind of like a, oh, which is best? Have we been doing it wrong? Do we need to change kind of things?
So, interestingly enough, you mentioned kampo. So, I think even now there's a lot of like we consider like like Western medicine, but even like sometimes I've gone to the doctor for like a cold, and they'll give me kampo. Like it's actually they'll call it kampo, and it's like one of the things I take, and I can buy also at the kusuri, which is the drugstore, is like this powder, and it's got like a lot of different herbs and other things in it. It has a very interesting taste, kind of like ginger and anise and a lot of different stuff. And you can take that. So instead of taking like a cold medicine, you can take this powder, and well, at least the professor calls it Chinese medicine. So I don't know if it's like the traditional or if it's been modernized traditional, but it's still like compo is still used here for some treatments, I think.
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned that because I will be coming back to that as one of the facts I was going to
Woo!
tell you. So, the last quick fact that I wanted to say about the overall development of Japanese medicine was that they've been having these new Western textbooks and ideas, but it actually wasn't up until the Meiji Restoration, so like 1868 onwards, that traditional medicine actually began to fall into decline and Western medicine kind of took over from the traditional Chinese herbs kind of thing. So, very quick, that was the overall development of medicine in Japan. But if we're going to more like specific things about medicine, the oldest Japanese medical textbook was by a man called Tamba Yasuyori, and that is dated all the way back to 912 and 995
Oh,
AD, so a rather old medical textbook.
wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
All the way back in 1556, that was actually when the first Western hospital opened up in Japan in the site of Oita, and that was opened by a Jesuit missionary who came to Japan by the name
Hmm.
of Louis de Almeida.
Ah, okay. So, and it was around this time period too that so you basically, if you wanted to get medical treatment, you were going to go to, seems like either Buddhist temple or the Jesuit hospital.
Yeah, pretty much, I think so. When we move on to, so we're jumping ahead again. So 1804, there was the first operation underdone using anesthetic
Oh,
by a doctor known as Hanaoka Seishu. Interestingly, he used a plant known as the datura plant, which is commonly known as the devil's trumpet and is actually a poisonous plant.
wow. Okay. Okay.
The last two things I wanted to say, so we're in the 1900s now. So 1922, we have the first health insurance law brought into effect in Japan, but at this time it didn't actually cover all residents of Japan. And it wasn't until 1938 that this law was actually changed and adapted to cover more of the population, which was mostly like manual laborers that weren't allowed health insurance at the time. So farmers, fishermen, foresters, etc., like jobs like that. The final thing is going back to your mentioning of campo medicine. So in 1976, that was when campo medicine was again reintroduced. It is stringently like regulated and has to be approved by the Ministry of Health. But in 1976, 82 campo medicines were declared usable by the Ministry of Health.
Whoa, oh my gosh. Okay, I had no idea. That's amazing. So they stopped it and then brought it back. Well, you just blew my mind.
It's not I'm not sure if it's necessarily they stopped the use or that it was like used in like local herb
Mm,
shops and
mm.
things. But definitely by 1976, the government, so the official Ministry of Health, deemed that these specific 82 types of campo medicine were scientifically
Mm.
valid and that could be used safely in hospitals and treatment centers and be given as prescriptions to
So
patients.
they got this. they were the stamp of approval. Essentially, it could have been used like maybe we're using this because it's something good, but now it's like it's officially okay to use it. Okay.
So there you have it. I found a few facts that I thought might be interesting as we're talking about hospitals and you checking in with everyone. There's definitely a lot more to be said. So I think it might be interesting if we delve more into this and do maybe a medical history episode one day. I don't know if there's anything more you want to say on this quick episode for everyone, Heather, before we sign off.
Well, besides, we're going to try our best to have a regular episode out this week, but if we are unable to do so because of circumstances, we'll let you guys know. But our hope is to have our regularly scheduled episode out at our usual time. We'll try our best.
I hope so as well. Like the stories we've picked for this week are definitely interesting. We want to do an episode on the theme of Japanese mirrors. So we found like two different stories about that. And we do really want to record it and get it out by this Friday. We will try our best, like Heather says. But yeah, I think that is everything from me today.
Everything for me is Thomas. Please take care. Please wash your hands. Everyone else, please also wash your hands and eat healthy. And please take care. And we will see you guys soon.
Yes. Talk to you soon, guys. Okay. また
Mata
ね。
ne.